Welcome back. So I used to live in Florida and we have recently moved to Virginia and I am trying gardening all over again. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. This is all new to me. There's so much I have to learn and this is me starting over in Virginia. So this is my first attempt at gardening. So I've got some common ones that I know grow pretty quick, and I've had to Google everything that is deer resistant because that was not a thing I had to deal with in Florida. So basically I'm trying to get stuff that's very aromatic and very quick growing. So I've got some kale there, there's some marigold, some bee balm. Then over here I've branched off into some strawberries and celery because apparently fresh grown celery is delicious. I don't know. I've only ever had store-bought stuff. Then over here, tomatoes, some sweet potatoes that I plan to use for the leaves, some more kale, and some more celery. So, something that I've learned. I still absolutely hate weed cloth. It is so pointless. So, they had it down here, and look at all these weeds. Like, they just came through and clear cut all this stuff. So some of the original, like, I think these are hostas. There's some violets, and these look like Columbines. So these look like columbines that are popping up. So they probably self-seeded themselves and may have been original, like, to the plantings. But I can't imagine that the person planted blackberries right here. So the weeds still grow up through it, and it's just awful trying to dig a hole with it. In Florida, this little hand trowel would be perfect to put in those teensy little kale and the other plants. You know, the soil is really easy, very sandy to dig through. This doesn't really work. There's too many rocks, there's too many tree branches, roots. The soil is so much thicker. You know, the soil is great, but yeah, this isn't cutting it. It's too much work. So I'll probably have to retire this to Florida gardening. I also bought a bunch of herbs. So these are supposed to be quick growing, and in Florida I killed these. I killed them so many times. Mint, you know, up here they say it's a nuisance. In Florida it just dies. So I'm kind of scared to put it in the ground, but you know, more mint to me sounds delicious because I can make it into teas and use it for oils and stuff. So I don't see that being a problem, but I'm going to start with it in a pot. Over here, I'm using everything I have, so I didn't start out with many pots. I actually asked a garden center if I could use some of their extra pots because they were just lying there, and she was very nice and gave them to me. So I'm also using a strawberry container to start some marigolds in there. We'll see how that works. I went ahead and also started some soursops because up here I guess it's not very common. So I went ahead and planted some because you can get some good prices for them. You do have to grow them in a greenhouse. So that pot has 20 seeds in it. When they get bigger and sprout, I'll separate them. And, you know, probably pretty small pots because I will have to keep them inside during the winter when it snows. And here's my little setup. All of these plants I've had to research if they're deer resistant because I don't know what deer like to eat. And here's my cute little bumblebees. They love this plant right here. So we are just renting this house, and a previous occupant of this house obviously liked to garden. So they have planted some mint, and I believe this is lemon balm right here. It smells delicious. And I've used it several times to make tea. So they have the mint kind of contained in between concrete. And it does look like it would try and escape. Like here, it's trying to escape right there. But again, I think mint's pretty good, so I'm not worried about it. There are so many invasive species. Like, I don't know quite what that is, but I'm thinking it's the mimosa. So those are invasive. Oh, here, this soda apple. Let's see. Alright, so this is in Florida and it is nasty. It is not a plant you want to grow. It is growing everywhere here. So I googled to see if I could compost this plant and it said no, throw it in the wet trash or burn it. So yeah, I have lots to clean up and it's got some nasty thorns on it. Ouch. In fact, right there. Oh my goodness, it's got thorns on the ribs right there. Alright, so it's got some really nasty thorns, so I definitely have to use maybe like 2 pairs of gloves on this. And it, unfortunately, is everywhere. It's all in the front yard too. So along with the mint and lemon balm, I also have some random trees. Not quite sure what this one is, haven't Googled it yet. Then there's some kind of like garlic or chive right here. Some more of this, I think mimosa. I don't know, I'll have to research it. And then there's also some really pretty morning glories that have self-seeded themselves. So that's really exciting. My kids like to look at those. So I have lots of stuff to make tea out of. And here it's getting kind of crazy. Probably gonna dig some of those up and try and sell them, we'll see. Here's where they used boxes instead of the weed cloth, which, I mean, it's better because then you don't have to dig this up, but they didn't put enough rocks or enough covering on it so you can see it. So, I don't know. Still doesn't look really good, but it's better than weed cloth, which is just going to put microplastics into the ground. And so along here, there's a whole bunch of poison ivy. I think this is an invasive plant as well. I do believe it's a wild mustard. I believe this is wild mustard, and so I think I read that it was edible. So I'm going to try doing some recipes with that. So I'm going to leave it for now, but definitely not propagate it. Okay, and then there's a whole bunch of this Virginia creeper. It's they pulled it off the house, so it left all those little sticky like marks on the tree. And then there's also a whole bunch of poison ivy, which that's gonna be fun. Gotta wear gloves for that. But there's so many invasive plants, and there's so many plants that I am learning that I have no idea what they are. So back into the front yard, here is so many soda apple plants with all those thorns. They kind of have some pretty flowers on them. Oh, the bee. All right, so the bee apparently likes it. There's not many flowers around here, so I guess he's got to take what he can get. But those have nasty thorns and are nasty, nasty plants. I think there's some daylilies in there. I think back there, there's like a yucca. Or here we go, like maybe a Spanish needle. Not sure. Tried researching what that plant was, but I don't remember it offhand. Okay, whole bunch of rocks right here and random stuff. Here is a little amaranth that's self-seeded. I'm gonna dig that one up before I do the lawn. But look at all these like just nasty, nasty plants popping up. And here I've already stepped on the soda apple a couple times, and they will let you know if you stepped on them. So you gotta pick up all that. Not quite sure if the hose in the backyard, if the water's hard, but I haven't gotten it to work, so I'm collecting whatever water I can. Then we're back up here to tomatoes, the kale, the marigolds, and I believe that's some kind of lavender. That's what it smells like. Okay, collecting all of the weeds so I can compost them. And that is a little tour of my garden so far. So I hope you guys enjoy this trial of growing plants in Virginia. All right, my heart still is set on tropicals, but we are trying something new for a while. All right, bye guys. One last plant. So this is Japanese knotweed, which is very invasive here and it grows everywhere. Like this is probably one that self-seeded itself. But what's kind of interesting in doing research on this plant is when you get the young stems, they are supposed to taste like rhubarb. So I'm kind of excited to try that and cut it back and then try some young stems because I love rhubarb. So you know, invasive plants can be a pain, but if you can eat them, that just seems pretty awesome to me. So the previous occupants left behind this composter. You know, it's in pretty rough shape, but I've gone ahead and am trying to compost some stuff in there. So normally in Florida, I would throw all kinds of scraps in there. I'd throw leftover food that went bad, I'd throw leaves, I'd throw fruit. But here, the neighbors said that there are bears that they've seen commonly. So I cooked salmon last night and I was not sure quite what to do with it because I do not want to attract bears to this yard where my kids and I are going to be commonly outside. But that's a new thing to be concerned about. So in the neighbor's yard over there, there is always deer in the morning. So I have to research all the plants that I buy to make sure that deer don't like them. Because even as I was gardening today in the front, a little fawn walked probably about within 100 feet of me. And that was awesome to see it, but also know that anytime it or its mom or dad or anybody could just eat all that I've planted. In fact, the lady up the hill there, she has some beautiful petunias, and every morning a deer is like chomping on them, and that would be so awful. It's so funny, but it's so awful.